All right, guys, welcome back to the Johnny and Sergio show. We've been chit-chatting a bunch before we even pressed record. I wish we pressed record prior, but we have a very exciting guest coming on the pod, Bill Canady. Is it Canady?
You got it right, man.
All
That's
right,
exactly perfect.
Bill Canady, which I'll just tell you guys right now, has the craziest resume on all of LinkedIn. You can check it out for yourself. I'll put it in the description below. But he's the current chief executive officer of of Arrowhead Engineered Products, and was just the CEO. Are you still the CEO of OTC as well?
Yep, CEO of both of them.
CEO of both. So two private equity-backed businesses doing a grand total of, what is it, $1.5 billion in sales?
2.5 billion between the two of them. One of them is a billion, the other one's a billion and a half. So, look, man, we're just simple country people doing the best we can with what we got.
Yeah. So we were talking about a lot before, we hit record. Welcome to the podcast, Bill. We're really excited to chat with you, man. I got a ton of questions I want to go over, but I think a good place to start is just what's it like running it's but two business. How do you even be CEO of two businesses, let alone $2 billion businesses? Because you hear people talk about, you got to focus on one. How are you able to lead so effectively?
First of all, they're not wrong, and if you're going to run more than one of anything, it comes down to process and how you approach things. But the most important piece is the team, right? And so there's really just four simple things you got to do, Johnny, if whatever you're going to run. The first one is you have to have a goal. And that goal, as you and Sergio know, it's typically a number. How big we're going to be, what is that going to look like? You set that goal. The team you bring in, those people that are with you, their job is to determine the strategy to achieve your goal. Now, why do you think it's important for them to determine the strategy versus you?
So that you can align the incentives properly? So the business
it is. But here's the reality of it. Think about when you started your first business, right? And you started out with this idea of something, and I've seen the background. I mean, you guys have done something amazing. But the journey that you took to get there was not particularly straight, right? You try something, it doesn't work, then you do something else, and slowly you tack your way through that like you're a sailor with wind coming at you, and the wind changes. If you set the strategy for them, how they're going to achieve it, all they're going to try to do is make you happy. They're not going to be like looking at the situation around. You need them to understand how they're going to get there, right? So you're the general, right? You're the guy in charge, and you say, we're taking this hill. And you typically want it to be quantitative. And quantitative isn't all that cool, right? So you say, I'm going to be $10 million. I'm going to be $20 million. And here's that's the hill we're taking. Their job is they have to tell you how they're going to get to that hill. Because they're the people on the ground every day out selling that window cleaning, out selling that apartment cleaning. You don't know what they're going to face. You don't want them to call you to say, how do I sell this job? You want them to know what your values and your culture are, and is it going to move the ball forward? They need to make that decision to move on. You've got bigger things to think about. If you're doing that, you're not running a sophisticated business.
Well said, man.
Because think about it, you guys, how long have you been together? What, right? Forever, since you were kids.
14, yeah. How long have we been together, Sergio? It sounds kind of weird saying it that way, but we've been best friends
since 7th grade, man, and we're 20, 25, 26. We're 26 now, yeah.
Yeah, so man, you're getting old. Look, this is...
Yeah.
You guys got a long runway, but I bet at this point, for 14 years, you spent longer with each other than you spent apart from each other, right? You're more years. You're like a married couple now. Bet you can spend. You know each other's values.
Dude, Bill just keeps getting it weird.
I know it's getting weird, but it's true though, right? And the thing is, you both have skin in the game, so you both feel responsible for the success. So you trust each other. You know the values. You know your processes, your tools. So if Sergio's out there doing something, he's going to make it happen because he knows the parameters. But if he just showed up and he didn't understand how you got here, all he's going to do is wait for you to tell him what to do next. Or Sergio, if Johnny's out there doing so, already you're common and aligned around the goal. And you can't call him up and say, well, you know what, Johnny, this was your plan, not mine. I told you it never worked. It turns out it's your plan to get to that goal, and that's why you make it work.
You know what's funny you say that, so I'll tell a story real quick. Me and Sergio just bought out our third business partner. So me and Sergio have been business partners in the window cleaning business, the house cleaning business we started for my mom, and then now Home Service Academy, the business we were talking about before I pressed record. And when we started Home Service Academy, we needed a paid marketer. And we made the decision to bring in him as a third co-founder, giving him even equity, giving him 33% of the business. We were 50-50, gave him 33%, right? So diluted ourselves down a little bit.
That's all
We
right.
ended up buying him out, and it's funny you say that because that is the exact reason. Because we've been through all the trials and tribulations, and so it was a lot of like waiting to be told what to do.
You can't
So-
get there, right? I can't. It's not hit the ball, drag marketing guy. You need someone out there who's running through the walls like you are. So how do you do that? You get a line. So you decide. It's your two decisions. This is a decision. You have to own it. And you've got just the components that you have to do. So first is how big, how far, how fast. That's your decision, right? Then how you're going to get there, whoever's going to decide that needs to own that themselves. And that's how they're judged. That's how they're compensated. That's how they're valued, right? So think about I like military examples for a variety of reasons. But one, it's such a command and control. You can really separate. So the president of the United States or the field general, whatever you want to call it, comes up and says, we're going to go attack this hill, right? And the reason that they can pick that and come and give someone that order, know it's going to happen, is they focus on two things. One is values, right? This is how we conduct ourselves. And the second one is on tool usage. So that young lieutenant, he's 21 years old, or she is 21 years old. They just graduated college. They've got 4 or 5 people on their team. So think about it. It's your marketing person. He's got some marketing people. And the decision is made, we're going to go take that hill. Now, they know the tools. So they know how to run the radios. They know how to run the shovels. They do the medic stuff. They know how to shoot their guns, right? All these things. They know how to do everything from their weapons on down. And you've told them this is how we do business, right? We don't cheat. We don't lie. We don't steal. We want to win, but not under all conditions. So you set the parameters and you've identified the hill. Since they know your tools, your processes, and they know what you would be comfortable with, that general can set that 21-year-old with his 6 or 7 18-year-olds all fresh out of school, drop them anywhere in the world and have confidence of two things. One, they know how to do the mission. And two, they're not going to start World War III, right? Because you don't just shoot anyone, right? That's what you have to focus on. As a CEO, you determine the goal, you make sure they understand your processes and techniques, and then you tell them to go get it. That's their job to figure it out. You've determined who.
So quick question. So someone who is CEO of a $1 billion company, how do you have confidence that someone that is 50 people removed from you down the line has that clarity in that vision?
That is a great question. That's the key to the whole thing. Because I have me and my team. So if you're going to be on my team, you have to be a pro, right? I just don't have time to mentor someone up on that, because the people running these roles have to be pros, because guess what? They're going to have their team and their team all the way down. Now, I have a ton of people that I mentor, and today there's probably more than 20 people who are setting CEOs or presidents of company that at some point in their career work for me, and I help them get there, right? So the people I'm putting in charge are competent. They have to already bring the skill set of whatever it is that we need. And you can't just be a good athlete to be on my team. And what I mean by that is maybe you jump faster and you run further than anyone else, but I need you to know the cleaning business, or I need you to know what we're doing. You need to. It turns out I don't actually need to know that game, but you do, because you're the person charged with executing the strategy. So you're 50 levels down, right? So I'm CEO, you're the president. On your team, you're going to have the skill sets needed, and you have to pick that team. You're going to have a financial person. You're going to have a marketer. You're going to have an engineer, a sales, whatever's appropriate for that role. And then underneath them, if you're a real good leader, what are you going to do? You're going to make sure your team is competent, just as I'm making sure my team is competent. And you know what? If you don't do that, how do I feel about you?
You feel like they're not.
This
they're not
job's
fit
not
the
for
role?
you. You're not ready
Yeah.
for it. You can't build a team. You might be a couple of levels too high. So I have to set the goal. I have to measure it and monitor it. I'm gonna make sure the process, like our vision, our values, is held, right? You're not gonna cheat and lie and steal and be on our team, right? But most importantly, what I'm gonna make sure is that you do 4 things. One, your own pace. If you're too fast, you leave everyone behind, you create chaos. If you're too slow, you're a bottleneck. The second one is you're data driven. If you have less than 20% of the information, you're just guessing. If you have more than 80%, you've waited so long, everyone else has passed you by. You got to be able to deal with the ambiguity, but you got to have data, right? The third, this is very important, no surprises, right? Bad news, fish, and relatives all stink after 3 days, right? We got to have that conversation. And the final one, this is the most important, Johnny. Results matter. We will not be a best effort company. I told you it was $10 million. You agreed. We talked about it. You agreed. You said you could do it. You told me your strategy. I'm holding you accountable. If you can't deliver the strategy, look, you bet 300 in baseball, you go to Hall of Fame. You bet 300 in my company, you probably get let go because we can't win 3 out of 10. We got to win 7 out of 10. We have to have win. When you go out and you're selling window cleaning or you're selling you got to sell some of those jobs. That's the price to be on the team.
Would you say this is true regardless of the level that you're at? So say, because you run a $2.5 billion organization, or multiple combined.
That's right.
Now, how does that change, say, when you're at 10 million or 5 million a year to 10 million to 50 million?
Really great
As
question.
CEO.
The more you go up, the bigger, the more complex, the more you have to stay in your lane. I cannot run sales and marketing and I can't do it. And if I start telling you how to do your job, I'm going to miss something else, right? I have 9 presidents that report to me today, right? We're in 50 different countries, right? Between the two of them, we're over 6,000 employees, right? We have 1,000 service trucks every day out rolling. No way I can keep up with it. If I try running any of those, I actually quit doing my job. I have to cover my area. When you're a one man, you do it all. The two of you got together, you could split. Hopefully you're not the same person, right? You have a skill set, and Serge, you have a skill set, right? I bet they work really well together, but they're different. Stay in those lanes.
So well together, yeah.
And the more you go up, the more you have to become specialized. So I will only, if I talk to everybody, I go out. What I actually do in my day is I'll travel somewhere. I go to a location. I do the same thing in everyone. I come in, I say hi to everyone. I shake their hand. We walk the factory floor. We'll have a town hall meeting. The town hall, I'll talk for 30 minutes. I'll talk about where we've been, where we are, and where we're going. Then the next 60 minutes is Q&A because it's really all about them and what they want to know about that. I will bring the right people with me if I can. So typically an HR person comes, maybe the person running that business, whatever. But it'd be me and them just answering any question they want. Then if it's like before lunch, we'll bring in lunch and have Chick-fil-A's or whatever. It's at the end of the day, we'll bring out cornhole, play music, and eat burgers and things like that. And then I get out because if I stay longer than about 4 hours, I'm too disruptive, right? No one's working. They want to play with a bright, shiny object, which is me. And so I leave. But I try to make it very fulfilling with them. And by doing it in the factory or in the warehouse or at the shipping location, it aligns with our values. I could take everyone out to a big fancy steak dinner, but that's not who we are, right? We're simple people doing blue collar jobs, and we want to spend time together. So that's what you have to do. So today, how many people you got in your company?
We have about 20.
So you got 20 people. How many of them are on the executive team?
Just me and Sergio.
Yeah, so
Well,
today
we
you
have a
guys
leadership
really...
team, but
Yeah, we have like I would say our direct reports. We have 4, so we have
There you go.
lead of partnerships.
So
content
ask
director.
yourself how often you're running around those 4. You probably are some because 4 is it's a smaller team. It's probably appropriate for what you have. But, we talked about you had a marketing person, right? You probably really need that, but maybe it wasn't the right person or maybe it wasn't clarified or whatever it was. But you need someone out there every day thinking about how we make this company bigger and better and how we resonate with that. If you're having to tell that marketing person how to do the job, it's the wrong person, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and it's
focus on what
interesting
you
you
want.
say that. It's interesting you say that because I do find myself sometimes doing a lot of different things, even some things where I don't feel like I'm super confident in doing, but I know I can do it well enough. But it's also because we're at a $5 million company level, whereas, like you said, like when you get to higher levels, then you hire those people. You know?
You want to hire early. So right now you're 5. I'm just using this as an example, and maybe a $10 million company has 5 people instead of 4, right? You probably want to have that 5th person before you get the 10. Now, as you get a little bigger and everything, you'll have to watch your costs and all these other kind of things. But the way you're going to win at this point, guys, you've already crossed the Rubicon, right? This is your 3rd business. You've had a lot of success, so you know what you're doing. The way that what it takes to run a $5 million business is very different than a 10 and very different than a 20. Once you get beyond 50, you kind of have all the skills sets there. You got people doing them. And once you get over 250 million, it's a real business. You know what I mean? I mean, like you've got all the problems as well as the good stuff that comes with it. But at 5 million, your staff will look very different at 10 million. And you will not know what's going on every day. So I have people, and I get the sentiment, they'll go, I will never ask anybody to do something I wouldn't do. And I've got to know every job. I don't believe that's true, because if you have to do it all, how are you going to grow the business, right? Where are you going to find that time?
Yeah. We're going to find the time to learn all those skills too. I'm glad you said that. That broke a lot of beliefs for me, Bill, because I've always thought I should know how everything works. Everything works. But it makes sense, because if you're hiring people and doing a good job of hiring people smarter than you, well, then they're going to know it better than you anyway.
They're going to be way better. Now, look, I remember building, so at this point in my career, I'm totally making up a number. I have probably signed off on 1,000 different websites, right? And so then I decided to write these books and these other things. I thought, I need my own website. So I hired this company, and they did a horrible job. I'm sure you've never experienced any of that, but I got so frustrated, and I was just kind of beside myself. And my wife goes out of town to see her kids. And so I get in my office, and as I do, I buy like a case of Mountain Dew and a bunch of energy bars, and I don't sleep for a week, and I build that stupid website. And it was mediocre at best. But I got so much out of that because I had never actually built one. I mean, 30 years doing it, and I have signed off on dozens. But I have a deeper understanding and appreciation of anything else. I still had to go back and hire people to clean up my mess. So I get it, and it's fun, and we do want to do some of those things. But there's no value that's added in that. That's just either we don't have the resources, or we just are stubborn enough we want to do it. If you want to scale from 5 to 10, go hire people who are a lot better than you are. Tell them what you want, and then let them do that job. And most importantly, hold them accountable.
Are you dropping?
said.
This is, guys, I hope you understand, everyone listening to this. This is literally $1 billion worth of game. Literally $1 billion. Okay, so I do want to touch on real quick, because we skipped over it. I want to talk about your career trajectory. How did you even get started? How did you turn into this badass Fortune 100 CEO?
Yeah, well, I'm not Fortune 100. But our Genstar, our parent company, private equity, is for sure in that level, and I'm just pleased and lucky to be with them. So I grew up in North Carolina, and this is true. I grew up on a dead-end dirt road in a double-wide trailer, right? So we were just simple country people. My dad was a combination of a handyman and an HVAC tech, right? So I grew up crawling under trailers to put air conditioners in them, right? And whatever else he could make money at. And so I got out of that, and I got in the Navy, and then I got out of the Navy, and I moved to Chicago, which is where I met my wife. And the first secret that you're going to have, if you're going to have any success at all, is choose wisely in your partners. As you two know, being together, but when you get married, and particularly, you sometimes don't know each other very long, you just pray you get lucky, right? Because the two of you together make each other better. If you add partners to it, just choose wisely, right? So that made a big difference, and it also made me want to be a better person than I was. I didn't have a college education or anything at the time. My wife was a school teacher, was becoming a school teacher. We were going to have kids. So I went back at night, got my education. Then I went. It's funny, I actually sat on that board of that university. Now I'm the chairman of the investment committee of all things. I just think they just tells that poor choices on their part. But nonetheless, so I did that. We got my MBA. And then from there, it just became, I started taking bets on myself, right? I thought I wanted more. I wasn't even sure what more was. I bet sometimes you guys think the same thing. It's like, what could we do next? We have more in us, right? And you have to decide what kind of person you are, because you got to pick your own problems, right? If you're going to be a business owner, and particularly the smaller one where you're doing a lot of hats, you're not going to coach Little League. You're not going to be on the library board. You're working, right? That's what happened. And if you're going to have that really high quality of life, then you're probably not doing startup businesses, right? You can't make every event out there. You got to choose the set of problems you're most comfortable with. And with me, it was, I wanted something special in my career, and I thought I had it in me, right? But they're not straight lines, right? You win some things, you lose some things, you just keep moving forward. And the reason I am where I'm at today is somebody took a chance on me. And every time someone took a chance on me, I took a chance on myself. We moved 9 times at a lot of different jobs, and it was really kind of luck and preparation coming together, and me putting in that energy and effort with the support of my wife and family that made all the difference.
So, eventually you rose through the ranks. You've worked for a lot of different. It seems like you've stayed pretty true to just manufacturing. Have you ventured out anywhere else, or has it just been manufacturing?
Well, it's probably better to say I've been more in industrial products in my career, right? And I started out as a sales guy, and then I worked my way up and got into manufacturing. And then where the big breaks came is I started being part of buying and selling companies, right? I was part of that team, and I learned a lot through that, because to sell a company, you have to look at it differently, and you realize some of the decisions you make when you're small come back to haunt you when you get a little bigger, right? So it helps you think through that. But what's interesting is now I'm in my career where the products really don't matter anymore, right? So today I run a distribution company, OTC. It's pumps and compressors and finishing automation products. Then I also run Arrowhead Engineered Products, which is power sports, motorcycles, ATVs, outdoor power equipment, lawnmowers and weed whackers, rotating electric, which is starters. So in other words, nothing to do with either one of them. I for sure know very little. I just don't know that much about all the products. But what I do know is how to pick a really great team, how to treat them with dignity and respect, give them a chance to maybe create generational wealth for themselves as well, and then just bring that process I have of focusing on these critical few things, using data and all that, but empowering them. And they're out there working hard and doing the right things, not because of me, but because they own that strategy and vision themselves, and they see what it's going to do for them and their family, right? And that's the key, right? This is the greatest country in the world, because you can come from nothing and you can make something out of yourself, right? And it's all about who you surround yourself with.
Yeah. I'm curious, so under OTC, how many companies have you guys bought and acquired? How many does it consist of?
We're about 40 companies. Today we operate them all as a group, and we're in 3 segments, but they're made up of about 40 different companies. And they're all primarily United States is where we are. Do a little bit in Canada, a little bit in Mexico. And then Arrowhead, if you look back at it, is probably more than 40, 9 major different companies in Europe and Southeast Asia, and as well as the United States and things like that. So between the 2 companies, I probably have 100 different operating companies.
I've always been fascinated by that, because I can't even fathom operating 2 companies, because I operate one, and it's hard enough operating 1 company. So what is an org structure? How do you even structure that for efficiency?
It turns out to be really straightforward, right? So go back to what I said, right? You want to put people in control of it. So I have, and this is how most of them are set up. So you'll organize, when you have that many companies, you organize them in a segment that somehow fits together. Like the pump companies go with pump companies. The air compressor companies go with compressor. The power sports companies go with that. So you start with that. You put a president over that, right? And in that president's group, they'll have normal and customary functions like finance, engineering, sales, so on and so forth. They'll determine what that should look like. They'll decide what they need in that. What they are going to get from me is, does that make sense? And then can we afford it, right? On my staff, I'll have those presidents. In addition, we'll have finance, a CFO, Sometimes we'll have a COO, a chief operating officer, and that chief operating officer will both help on their operations, but that's typically done locally. But we'll own things like data. We'll own things like, so if you have a CEO, they'll have purchasing under them or not, right? So it'll be the stuff that is an umbrella for everything. So we keep the corporate staff very lean. Like I said, it's typically some operational stuff, finance, and HR. That's typically what you find on my staff. And the operating presidents, they'll have the full piece on that.
So an operating president, let's say they own the you said rotating power?
Sure, right? Yeah.
Let's say rotating power is one of them. You've got the operating president, and then under that, you might have 10 companies, let's say.
Yeah, for sure.
Does each company have its own CEO? Or
No.
is that the operating president?
Yeah, so what we'll do, because we're in private equity, and every model is a little different, right? So you have two types of companies out there. You have a mission-driven company and a values-driven company. So a values-driven company, an example would be a private company. And that private company is whatever the values of the owner. So you guys are a private company. Whatever you two value, that's going to be what this company is going to be focused on. In a typical private company, that is, what do you think the number one value is?
Profit.
The dividend, right? The dividend, because as you guys get bigger and bigger and you build out your families and you have success, those kids are going to want stuff. And so the dividend is going to become important to you and these companies that have had multi-generation, the dividend becomes really important. But it's whatever the values of the owner is. A lot of times in a private company, it's parochial, right? Take care of the town, take care of my people, and I need a dividend for my family, right? A mission-driven company is one that has something that they're going after. Private equities is a mission-driven industry. What do they care about?
Enhancing their multiple so they can flip it in 3 to 5
That's right,
years?
money. They care about making the most money. So they're not worried about feeding their kids. They're not worried about any of that stuff. They want this company to do its best. Now, some people look at that and think, well, that's not great because they're going to pull it out. It's actually just the opposite. It makes you invest more and it makes you more focused because you're looking to get a multiple on your invested cash, typically around 3 and typically within 5 years. So I put $1 in, I want $3 back, and I want it sooner's better. Right? So it's a very pure model, right? And so when you have that and you're looking at that, that person on your team, think back to your marketing piece, that person who's sitting in that role has some of that equity. And he's tied to the same number I'm tied to. He's going to be thinking, what can I do to take the equity we have in this and make it by 3 as fast as possible? And so he's going to get, or she is going to get, so they're going to get very focused on that. We use that 80-20 process to say this is where we make money. And then everything we do surrounds that. So if they are in the right type of, they may go, well, I need a very unique sales process. So I'm going to need a salesperson, right? Finance and HR, we're going to control that out of the center because we have to report and you want to roll your books easily. So we don't want it. That's a very standardized. HR, you typically run out of the center because it's the same reviews. You got the same insurance. Everything's the same because you want to buy in bulk, right? But everything else, like how they manufacture. So the companies you mentioned, they actually have manufacturing in. The other one has distribution in. And that distribution may go to a market totally different. So I don't try to tell them how to do it. I expect them to tell me how they are going to do it. And then we say, can we make money at this? Now, what was your job as a CEO? Do you remember, Johnny? The goal, right? Your job is to set the goal.
Yeah.
Right, Sergio?
Yeah.
Yep.
You're going to listen to what they say, stack up that number, and your question is going to be, if they do exactly what they say, do we achieve the goal? Not perfect, right? Because we don't live in a perfect land. But do we believe that we can get there? And if we believe, what do we say?
Get it done.
Go do it.
Hold them accountable. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
They have to give us that plan because I don't sit in his office. President of my WPS is in Colorado, right? President of my pump groups in Kansas, right? President of my beer groups in Paris, France, right? I don't see them every day. They tell me I'm going to get you 100. And why do I have confidence? Because they're linked to the same thing I'm linked to. We do the math. If it works, we agree. They go try, and we review regularly. If we don't believe it works, what do we say to that?
Why?
Yeah, so we'll start questioning, and if they have absolute belief and it meets our values and culture, right, we say go try. Mm-hmm. I'm not the one that has to deliver that plan. They have to deliver that plan. If I forced them to take my plan and it doesn't work, whose fault is it?
Yeah.
It's yours.
Mine. Never going to be my fault. It's their plan.
Such a good way to think about it.
Yeah, that's
It's
a
blowing
great
my mind
approach.
right now. I don't know about you, Sergio, but you just changed my way of thinking right now. As
No,
somebody
I'm
who
learning a ton
moves
right
people.
now.
This is
This is scary, guys, because you know what it means? You don't have control of it. You're simply looking and judging, and the most important decision you're going to make is this person right for the job or not? That becomes the most important decision you're going to make. Are they right? And how do I know if they're right or not? Not because they're perfect or deliberate, because things change. None of us saw a pandemic coming. They can't do that. If the market's up, do they get credit for it? Of course not. If the market's down, do they get blamed for it? Of course not. They have to be able to deal with what the world throws at them. And how do I decide? I just think of those four things. Are you using data, doing the best you can? Are you on pace? Do I know what's happening and we're doing what we can? And are you achieving results? You fail any of those at any time, we're going to talk about it. And if you do it too many times, we're going to say something like, maybe this job isn't for you.
So
Yeah,
even
I'd be
down to
scared
like
to be in your office, Bill.
No,
I'd
I'm
be terrified.
easy. I'm so
shaking
easy.
in my boots.
And people love it.
No, I
No,
bet
it makes
they
a
do.
lot of sense
Yeah.
though, because we've been running this the way we've always run businesses. I mean, we'll do like a quarterly meeting and say, okay, here's our key. Like we'll have a yearly thing we want to achieve, and we'll break it down by department. We'll say, here's the marketing most important tasks. Here's the fulfillment and service delivery most important tasks. The sales, and we'll come up with those and we'll deliver it to them. But it's our plan.
It's your plan. And by the way, that means you can only really do things you understand. Suppose you want to get in the window tinting business. Well, that's a near core. You probably know that. But suppose you want to get in window tinting and automotive in cars. What the hell do you know about cars? Right? What you need is a person that does know cars. It's a near adjacency. You're already doing windows. You want that person to come, oh, cars. Well, look, I've done this a million times. Here's what it is. And you're like, all right, I get it. Math works. Let's go. You're tied to it. I'm tied to it. We all got money in the game. Here we go.
Okay, let me just interrupt real quick to tell you about Home Service Academy. It's the company Sergio and I run. Home Service Academy is essentially a business in the box where our team will actually roll up our sleeves and help you build a house cleaning business and run it completely remotely from anywhere in the world, from dirt to however big you actually want to take it. To date, we've helped over 1,500 people start and grow their existing house cleaning businesses all across the US and Canada. It's something we've gotten very, very good at. And if you've been looking to dip your toe into entrepreneurship, whether that's to go full-time in a business, to replace an income, or just build a side hustle that produces you an extra whatever amount of money you want to make on the side, on top of your current 9 to 5, then click the link in the bio and book a call with our team. It's completely free, and at the very least, you'll see what it looks like to actually run one of these businesses, the time commitments, the amount of money it costs to actually start, and every good and bad thing that can come with running one of these. So again, if that's something you're interested in, click the link in the bio, and let's get back to the pod.
So the difference between someone that has $1 million business and a $20 million business is their ability to delegate the plan. I think that's the hardest part, is like the plan, right? Like we can delegate tasks pretty easily. It's like, hey, do this, but it's on your plan. But I mean, to delegate the plan and feel like that's not in your control anymore is something that's very hard to do.
Yes, I don't know the size. That's an interesting question. I haven't thought about 10 or 20. It's just your capacity. So years ago, I hired this marketing firm, and I was interviewing people, and it got down to 2 finalists. And so there was like, I'm almost going to pick on you. There's a Johnny and there's a Sergio. So Johnny comes in, and I'm still friends with these guys, which is really interesting. And Johnny was an extraordinary genius marketer. He had 25 employees, and they all basically did what he said. They were his almost assistants. They were really good. He'd come up with the vision, they'd execute. The other guy, Sergio, was really good at selling, and he could land the account. And then he immediately gave it over to an account manager who laid out everything, and they had the staff, right? So I dealt with these guys for 15 years. At the beginning, they were about 5 minutes. There were 3 or 4. They were out in New York.
Which one did you go with?
I actually used both of them through the years, right? Just how it worked. At the end of 10 years, Sergio was like $75 million, and Johnny was still $5 million. Because the whole world went around the guy, and it was his assistant. They just executed. And so every account was his account, and he could only see so many accounts. The other guy just sold them and passed them off, and his key hire was project managers. So he'd get 2 or 3, boop, then you handle those, and he'd hire the next guy and the next guy. He was infinitely scalable, and he was an extraordinary salesman. The other guy was one of probably the best marketers I've ever seen. He's still working. The other guy sold his business, and I don't know where he's at now. He's still working. Great guy, though. Still saying he had a right-hand person, and I don't know how many people, but I always said it was 25, but they were his assistants. They did exactly what he said.
Yeah, that's
a
cool story. I like that.
You have to be scalable. If you can't scale, if everything has to come through you, you're sunk. You're going to be whatever your capacity. For some person, that might be $1 million business. For someone else, it might be $100 million business. That's dependent upon you.
So I know you've placed some CEOs and some presidents in different companies that you've worked with, and I'm curious to know, like, if you're a founder that started a company from scratch, how do you go about looking for someone to be the CEO? Like, who is going to care about that business just as much as you did?
Yeah, that's the keys to the kingdom right there, right? So what you're going to do is you're going to do a couple of things. So you're probably not going to bring them in as the CEO out of the gate, right? You're going to want to elevate yourself to the visionary, what we call the visionary, and you're looking for an operator. Now, whatever you call that title, I typically give that title the president of whatever that group is. So you're the president of widgets, and you're the president of spinning widgets, and on and on and on. So then they have complete capacity and control. They're controlling that P&L, which is what I want from them. If you don't give them control, you just won't know. I've got vision. I've got the process. I know where we're going. They've got the strategy to achieve my vision, all right? And then I show them, me and my CFO will show them that our vision is possible mathematically. In other words, we have the capital needed to do it. We have the ability to go do it. Okay? That's an important thing, because if you say, I'm going to grow to 100 million and you got no money, you're probably not going to do it, right? So our job is to say where we're going. Their job is to tell us how to get there, right? So then I start watching them work. They have to earn the right to get to that next chair, because what we're going to move them to at some point is the visionary role. As they're coming up, I'm going to make sure they have equity in the business. Now, we do one of two things. The first is we offer them, but don't require them to put money in. How do you feel about that? Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
I would imagine if they don't put money, a bad thing. Because
Yeah,
they
why?
want skin in the game. Because you want skin in the game.
That's right. You want them betting on themselves. You don't even really care what it is. But if they put their own money in, they're like, these people, it's a ham and egg breakfast, right? They're the pig. The pig has skin in the game. He has meat on the plate. The chicken just laid an egg and went on, right? You're looking for the pigs out here, right? So you want them to put money in the game. They don't have to, though, right? And there's a variety of reasons why they wouldn't. You just have to think if that's important to you or not. So now you know financially they're aligned. Then at the same time, you're going to offer some kind of equity component to them that will be shares that will vest over time but have no value at all otherwise. And the way the shares typically go is you'll have, let's say you give them 1,000 shares. I'm just picking a number. Maybe it's 100. It doesn't really matter what the number is. But it's a meaningful amount. Half of those will invest over the horizon that you're doing. So when do you want to sell the business, Sergio?
At 100 million.
Yeah, but how long?
Oh, like let's just call it like 7 years from now.
Yeah. So you would say 50% will vest over 7 years. And if we hit the 100 million, and typically you do it on earnings, not revenue, because you can't spend revenue, but you can spend earnings for sure.
Okay.
Right. And you say 100 million, I want to make 20%, 20 million bottom line and 7 years. Okay, so the shares vest over 7 years, half of them, and there's a schedule for that. Then the second piece is when we sell, not before, and if we hit that 20 million, because you picked that goal, the other piece vests 100%. In fact, if we sold tomorrow, everything would vest. So we don't care about time anymore, right? The time, you put that on there so they build some things just because if it's taking longer. You don't want them to leave, But the value on the time piece is not typically very much. It's typically pretty small dollars because there's no market for this stock. It's only if you get it valued, right? So you could say that the share is worth $1 or the share is worth $100 or $1,000. Typically, you'll have a third party do that. That's how you keep it honest, right? So 5 years or 7 years have gone by. You haven't sold the business. 50% of their equity is vested. That's what they have in the company, and it's valued at whatever someone has told you it's valued at. On the other hand, a year went by. You sold the company. You got your 20 million. That person's 100% of their shares invested, and they get paid out, right? So that's how you do it. You do it on a time base and the full amount. If you ever sell it and you hit it, then it vests at 100%. Now, this is where people get rich. This is the next piece of it. What happens if you overachieve? That value now isn't 20 million to them. That value goes up the same way. So it's not a 1 time, or maybe it's a 2 time or 3 time or 4 time or 5 time. That's where real wealth comes from. And why do you want that to go up? Because you want them tied to what you're tied to. And if you make money, you want them to make money.
Yeah. No, that's a great structure.
Yeah. Very common structure. There's a million ways you can do it. And then the cash they put in is valued at the same way that you're valuing it today. So in other words, there's no downside for it. If whatever you're carrying it at, you can do it. So there's a tier A stock and a B stock, but typically they put $1 in, they buy in at typically the same level that you are. If time goes by and you've had the company revalued, it would be at the latest value. So you started out was valued at 100. It's been 5 years. That guy quit. The new lady comes in. She puts 100 in. It's valued at whatever the current price is.
Right. So if someone buys in, just so everyone understands. So if someone buys in, say your company's worth $1 million and they want 1%, they'd put $10,000 in to get that 1%.
You would think of it, maybe the answer is yes, but you would instead say the value of most private equity values their shares at $1,000 a piece. So you will divide your million or your earnings by 1,000. That's how many shares we've got, right? You have this piece, and so typically you'll reserve like 10% or 20% for management. So out of I'm just going to say you got 100,000 shares just because the math's easier. You'd have 20,000 shares available. That's what you're going to give out for people to come in, right? If they buy $1 million worth, that's immediately vested. It's whatever it's worth, right? Nothing else has any value until you go there. So they put money in, they're betting on themselves. That will go up the entire time at whatever the price is they bought it. The other piece has to earn its way into it. Otherwise, there's no value with it. But generally, you divide the value of your company by 1,000. That tells you how many shares, however you want to do it. 1,000 is easy. So a year goes by, you've had it revalued. Now that your company's gone up by 20%, the share value now is $1,200. So if they put $1 million in, then they don't get 10,000 shares. They're going to probably get 8,000 shares because it's more valuable.
Right.
Got it.
That was probably more technical than you wanted, but if you ever want to talk about it, it's super easy. So it just sounds complex.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, this has been great. It's been a ton of great advice. I want to do a quick, kind of fun lightning round, just because we have a lot of people, a lot of home service business owners that will listen to us. A lot of people who are interested in starting home service businesses. So I'm curious. I know that's not necessarily your background, but once you get to a high enough level, it's all the same stuff. Looking at the numbers, making decisions, right? So, what do you like? One thing I've been getting asked a lot, especially from our mastermind clients. We've built a few $1 million cleaning companies, help people build them. We have hundreds of six-figure cleaning businesses that are
That's
well on their way
wonderful.
to seven figures. What would you tell someone who's asking me? Because I tell them any business can sell if it's structured the right way and the right components are in place. I'm curious to hear your take, though, as somebody who's building a house cleaning business.
You're absolutely right. You know, if you have a business that's making money, you can sell it, right? We buy a group of businesses that on the surface is very similar to house cleaning, right? So people go out and they sell air filtration. So we're big. We're the largest in the country in filtration products, right? And what you'll find is a couple of guys like yourself will get together. They've probably been in the industry, start their own business, and they go out and they pick up all that business. But really, what they have is relationships, right? They have relationships. And in fact, we're looking at a business right now that falls into this category. And in 3 years, they left their old employer. They went and started. The business is doing $40 million at 10%. They're making $4 million out of 40 in 3 years. They're ready to sell.
Wow.
Right? Now they want 10 times for that business, right? They want $40 million for that business, right? Now, why do you think I may not want to buy that business?
There's too much risk in the relationships. What would that be called? Would it be called key man risk?
Key man risk. Right?
That's right. They'll just take my money, go right back to their customers and say, hey, because it's a relationship business. It's like house cleaning, hair cutting, selling a product like that is a relationship. They're buying me more than they are the product, right? The way that we deal with that is we do non-competes, right? And so we'll say, we'll buy your business, but you're going to have a 5-year that you can't sell in this area in these types of products at all, right? We will lock them out. The second thing that we'll do is, depending on how much they want, because they, like everybody wants more than maybe what it's worth, we'll say, if you stay with us, we'll give you an earn out. So you think it's worth 40, we think it's worth 30. We'll give you 30 million, and you can earn the other 10 if you hit the numbers that you say you're going to hit. That locks them in. All right. Now you got to be careful with that, because if they stay and run it and then it doesn't hit it, they're going to say a lot of times the reason it doesn't hit it is because you kept me from doing it. Right. You gave me all this other stuff that added no value, and you told me I couldn't buy the stuff I wanted to buy. So you have to be careful with that. But that's generally how you do it. It's non-competes. So if you have a big house cleaning business, a big office cleaning business, you come in, you go, here's my book of business. This is what's grown. These are my profit margins, my employees. It's the same way you look at any other business, but because it's a relationship, they're going to have to make a commitment to whoever buys it that they will not come back and be their competitor for a number of years. And once they do that, you can sell the business.
What are some key components you look for in a good acquisition?
Well,
Obviously,
every industry
the
is
less
different.
key man risk, the better.
Yeah, so I don't
anything
get
else?
hung up in that part of it, right? I mean, it's we can, like I say, we can work around those pieces. What I really look at is the business itself. Like, is it a low bar of entry? So one of the challenges you'll have in a house cleaning business is anyone can tomorrow go out and start a house cleaning business, right? So what you're selling, it's just like hamburgers. Anyone go start a hamburger chain. Why does McDonald's or Chick-fil-A get so much? Because it's the processes they bring, right? You know, when you go in and get that McDonald's hamburger, you're getting a certain quality. Whether you and I think it's a good burger or not, a lot of the world does, and consequently they do billions. So you're looking at, and what your piece is your process. That's why they're gonna buy your business from it, right? So as I'm looking at it in my world, I look at 5 very simple things. I want it to, whatever we're selling, mission critical, which means you have to have it or whatever you're doing doesn't work anymore. So like if you're selling tires, you can't drive a car without tires. So if that tire goes bad, they got to buy a new tire. That's a mission critical product, right? Second thing I want is severe service, which means it's in a harsh environment and it wears out, right? So the tire's going to wear out. They got to get another one. Third piece is, I want a string of parts that come out of that, something that they're constantly, like razors and razor blades, right? So you sell a pump, I sell pumps, bearings wear out all the times, packings do, and they have to replace that or the pump doesn't work. Now that's really important to us, because that no one owns a pump because they're cool like a car. They can't make the product that they're in without that pump working. So they have to replace it or they're out of business, right? So mission critical, severe service, a string of consumables, whatever that is. Third piece or fourth piece, I want a moat around it. In other words, not anyone can do it, right? So if you have a special part that goes into something, maybe you're the only one that can do it. Maybe it's protected by patents. Maybe your process that you're doing is so unique or whatever, or you have it patented, no one can come in and do that, right? And then the final piece is kind of the, we want to see either we make them better, we bring something, or they make us better, right? So those are the 5 things I look at. And I would encourage everyone, the same thing here is, like, why would you want to get in with Johnny and Sergio? Well, it's going to be very simple, right? They're bringing a process. I have all this. They're going to lay all these things out, because if you really want to make money in business, you typically make it when you sell it, right? You typically make, and the decisions you make day one will affect how you sell that business in the future. And if you have a package, and I can come do a cleaning business, or I can do windows, or I can do car tinting, whatever it is, that package you're going to give me, John, is going to make the big difference. This is how I know I'm going to be able to monetize this business.
So it sounds like if someone had a house or a cleaning business that cleaned hospitals, that might be something you'd be interested in.
For
Kind
sure.
of fits those categories.
Absolutely, right? Now, why? Well, you got to deal with hazardous waste. That's a big deal, right? You can't just put it anywhere. There's probably going to be special training, because you just can't go in any room, right? So the more complex and the more, whether it's certifications or materials are, the more attractive it is, the harder it is to get into, right? So residential, you could go out and win tons of residential contracts. I bet it's easier than winning hospitals, but the value you're creating in a hospital far exceeds than coming and cleaning a 1,500 square foot condo.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I mean, even commercial is a step up from residential, because you got to kind of fight for those contracts, and they're a lot more sticky. Than
They're
somebody
really
saying,
sticky
"Hey, I'm gonna
because
cancel service." Yeah.
I can't have messy offices. One, someone's going to get hurt, or I'm going to have rodents, I'm going to have all these. I can't have any of that. I don't want to think about cleaning. So the person I'm going to hire makes my life easy. They're here in the middle of the night. Like, I'll give you an example. So we fired our cleaning service the other day. It was Friday night. My CFO looks out the window. It's an absolutely true story. And we see a drunk person wandering around in the parking lot. Right? So what the hell? So he comes down. He goes, this is first floor. And he comes in, and our, because like everyone, our doors are locked and all this kind of stuff. You can't just wander in and out. And the guy's in the lobby. In the lobby. How did he get here? So my CFO is telling me, so I was not there. And he's passed out. And so he's standing there, and the cleaning service comes in. And which was happened to be a woman coming in. And so Adam goes there, be careful. There's a crazy person in our life. It turns out that was the cleaning person. He got in the building because he had the key fob. And this is at the end of the day. Now, do you want a drunken person wandering around in your office in the middle of the night? First, he's probably going to break his own legs. For sure will sue us. I mean, there's no good. So when you're doing that sort of thing, right, the bar that you're looking for, the quality of person you're looking for is different. Because they're there when no one else is there.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. Makes sense. I'm curious, what do you see any industries that are kind of ripe, that are, you think maybe are underlooked by private equity, or just even strategic buyers?
That's an interesting question. So, right now,
there's so many, but
yeah, there's so many, right? Like right
a lot of
now,
businesses.
a hot area is HVAC companies. Everybody seems to be looking at. We bought like a $600 million HVAC business in the last year. It's going for us. So those are getting hot. Then you see things like pest control and all that. The problem with a lot of the businesses, though, that private equity is they're going to have a niche that they like, and they're going to I like carve out some big companies. I like turnaround businesses. I like service businesses and all that. So what you find is these companies, these private, tend to specialize into something. And then they're just going to keep asking themselves is, can I grow it? Can I leverage it? And they're going to look at two things. Organically, what can I do to do this? And then secondly, how big a market can I go out there and buy these? And one of the oxymorons is the smaller the company, the harder it is to buy, right? You come in to buy it, and the owner's had it a while. Typically, his accountant is the person doing his deal is his personal CPA, his tax accountant. His lawyer is his divorce lawyer. They don't know how to do any of this stuff, and so you wind up having to do it all for them, and it's a real pain, right? It's really hard to do a small deal. The books are typically bad, and all that. So we have to help get them over that line with it, and it's not always worth it, right? So that's why when you're below 2-ish million, it's a way harder deal than a 5 million in earnings. And a 20 million is way, the bigger they are, the more sophisticated they are, and the more you can typically rely on the data. So when you look at these cleaning services and you think about rolling them up, look out there and go, what's the average size? That's probably where I want to be playing. I want to be playing the bigger stuff. I want to know I can get, like a good sized cleaning business, maybe is, I'm just making this up, $10 million making $2 million a year. That's going to be very desirable versus someone who's got, 100 houses to clean. That'll be interesting, but that'll be done through a broker. Private equity, it's going to trade. When you buy that size of business, you're buying a job. When you buy a $20 million business, you're buying a company.
10 million's a job though still.
No, not necessarily 10. It just depends on the business, right? If the earnings that they're getting is sub $1 million, how are you going to make your money, right? So whatever, maybe 100 grand's good, maybe $500,000, maybe $1 million is what you want to make. But if that business is making 150,000, that is what you're paying yourself.
Yeah,
because they're looking at SE.
Yeah. I know we're coming up on time here. I just have one quick lightning round question. I think it's kind of fun. I think the people want to know, what's a day in the life of $2.5 billion CEO?
Well, first I get to hang out with cool guys like you. So that's, really what I do is I spend my time just doing two things. First is, and this has really changed since the pandemic, is the vast majority of the meetings we have are virtual like this. So Teams or Zoom, by far. It is so much more efficient, absolutely more efficient, and you can really get through. 5 years ago, for sure 10 years ago, I could not have run two separate companies. I just couldn't be in both offices. Most of my staff is remote, right, from it. So I go to my headquarters. I got one in Columbus, Ohio. The only person there is my CFO, right? I go to Blaine, my other one. The only one there, who would be there? HR is in that one, I think. So you see what I'm saying? So it's just, there's nowhere to be. This allows that. I spend my time doing that. The second thing I do is I go visit our locations, right? So those are the things that day to day keep this business going. Now, the rest of my jobs are things around like capital allocation and all that, looking up, if you will, like how do I keep care of our stakeholders and there's that. But in running the business, it's talking to the team, working through it hand in hand with them, right? And in making sure our folks are taken care of. We have to give exceptional opportunities to our folks. And you got to go out there and you got to be part of that if you're going to do it.
Okay.
Love it. Bill, this is my personal favorite episode.
Dude, I got so much.
You're going to make me cry if you keep talking that way to me. Yeah.
I me and Sergio are gonna hop on a meeting right after this, and we're gonna just dissect everything that you told us. It felt like a personal coaching call, to be honest, but it also doubled as a podcast, which I know a ton of people will get a lot of value out of. So I just want to say thank you so much for your time. If anybody wants to reach out to you, how can they do so if they wanted to get connected?
The easiest way to go right to my website is my name, Bill Canady BillCanady.com. And my email's on there. You can schedule time with me, whatever you want. I'm always happy to talk with people. Look, someone took a chance on me. That's why I am here today. I had to earn it. I had to get through it, but someone had to take that chance. Same thing with everyone else, right? A lot of great people out there. Those who are willing to bet on themselves, you can accomplish anything.
You got me fired up right now, Bill.
Fired up. Yeah, we'll put that in the description below. Again, we appreciate it. Is there anything else I'm missing, Sergio?
No, I mean, Bill's a friend of the pod now. He's going to be on again.
He's going to be back.
Just expect him to be back in a couple of months. Give us an update on how things are going, and we'll talk more business. So
absolutely. I can't wait to do it. This has been fantastic, guys. Thank you so much for your time today.
You as well.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. We'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.
Peace.